Very good evening. Welcome to The World Now at 4 on Hills TV. I am Uduak Daniel. First, let's talk the headlines. And on the headlines, Buhari appoints BOI executive directors. Still on the headlines, Gambia government arrests 4 involved in military coup. Also on the headlines, Russian ex-deputy prime minister wounded in Ukrainian shelling. And on sports, World Cup winner Messi agrees to stay at PSG. And now the news in detail. The Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday, being today, approved the reappointment of Shekarau Omar as Executive Director, Small and Medium Enterprises for a second tenure. Omar, whose first tenure would be expiring on March 5, 2023, will now serve for another 4 years. The senior assistant mediator to the Minister of Trade and Investment, Ifedayo Shayo, disclosed this in a statement. Omar, who is currently the ED-SME, has allegedly repositioned the SME Directorate through a remarkable expansion of the portfolio and marked improvement of the risk assets quality. Similarly, the president also approved the appointment of Mabel Ndaji as Executive Director to take effect from March 19, 2023. The statement revealed that Ndagi will be replacing retiring Executive Director Tony Adeniji, who would be retiring March 18, 2023 after serving a second and final term in office. She is currently the General Manager, Government and External Communications for the Bank of Industry, that is the BOI, and has served in the bank for over 16 years. DC have raised alarm over plots by miscreants to attack facilities of the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is the INEC across the country. Commandant General of the Corps, Abubakar Audi, in an alert, also said there were reports of a dangerous group in town disguised in uniforms with the intent to attack citizens. Audi, who spoke at the last CG's conference for the year 2022 with zonal commanders and state commandants nationwide, charged them to be active and activate their intelligence antenna, a warning that they would be held responsible for any attack in their respective states.
Domain.
This is a festive period where we have Christmas, we have New Year, and it is a period that is full of activities. And so there's going to be a very massive deployment of civil defense personnel to sensitive places like worship centers, recreational centers, and other relaxation spots, just to provide security and safety to Nigerians.
He said the Corps had already mapped out strategies for effective and adequate security to guarantee a free, fair, credible and transparent 2023 general elections. Bringing you more stories this time with the Senate. The Senate President Ahmad Lawan has explained the reason why the National Assembly failed to pass the 2023 appropriation bill as earlier scheduled. Lawan cited the long cleaning process the draft budget proposal underwent, among others, noting committees and appropriation from both chambers could not meet without the submission of the report for consideration and passage this Thursday. Shortly after a closed-door session that lasted 15 minutes, the Senate President Ahmad Lawan, due to irreconcilable figures detected by appropriation committees of both chambers, the National Assembly will not be able to deliberate on the 2023 budget. Lawan, however, blamed the executive arm of government for submitting the budget's proposal very late, and when it was laid, it came with errors. He also said that the process of cleaning the errors contained in the appropriation bill was concluded on Wednesday, adding that the two chambers have to harmonize the copy to be able to present the report for passage by both chambers. The Federal Executive Council, that is the FEC, has approved 13.3 billion naira for the award of contract for the purpose of Group Life Assurance Scheme for the Nigerian Police Force, that is the NPF. Minister of Police Affairs Maigari Dingyadi disclosed this to State House correspondents Wednesday at the end of weekly FEC meeting chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari. He said the scheme, which would cover 318,319 police officers and men is for the 2022-2023. The minister said the essence of the group life assurance scheme is to encourage the police officers and men who have been working hard to secure the country. When we come back, it will be news from other parts of Africa, this time starting with the Gambia. Don't go away. Still in the news, the government in Gambia announced on Wednesday having foiled an attempted military coup. According to the statement released by the authorities, 4 soldiers who tried to overthrow President Adama Barrow's government had been arrested. The situation is now totally under control, according to the statement that added that the army was trying to locate another 3 accomplices involved in the attempted coup. No independent confirmation was obtained from any source other than the government statement. Meanwhile, some reports mention soldiers moving around the presidential headquarters in the capital, Banjul. After being in detention for more than 6 years and his trial inexplicably adjourned more than 100 times, the former head of Cameroon's public broadcaster has been sentenced to 12 years in prison. Amadou Vamolke was convicted by a court in the capital, Yaoundé, of embezzling money and awarding staff salary bonuses without authorization. However, the 73-year-old denied any wrongdoing. His trial was widely criticized by human rights groups. Vamolke was arrested under Operation Sparrow Hawk, which critics say has been used by the President Paul Biya's government to lock up people seen as problematic. He is also known to have drastically cut his own salary when he took up the job at a public broadcaster. Meanwhile, a lawyer who represented him at the beginning of the trial, Alice Nkom, said the whole case was political and illegal. However, they have pleaded not guilty to the charges and have been remanded into police custody. And now let's take a quick break and look into this one. Away from that break, this time into a story that pertains to Russia, having you know that a Russian former deputy prime minister has been injured after shelling hit a hotel in a Russian-controlled area of eastern Ukraine. Dmitry Rogozin, who also once led the space agency, said he was hit above the shoulder blade. Another person is said to have been killed in the attack on the outskirts of Donetsk city. Vitaly Kotensko, who heads Russia's proxy Donetsk People's Republic, that is the DPR, was also reportedly wounded. Rogozin is widely known for his anti-Western rhetoric and his support for the Russian invasion of Ukraine. He was replaced as Roscosmos Space Agency chief in the summer, following suggestions that the Kremlin would give him a key role in Russian-occupied areas of eastern Ukraine. Instead, he appears to lead a volunteer unit called SARS Wolves that supports and provides Russia's proxy forces in the east. And now let's take you to Argentina, still talking of world space news. A court in Argentina has sentenced a former policeman who worked at one of the most notorious torture centers during the country's military rule to 15 years in prison. Mario Sandoval, 69, was found guilty of abducting and torturing left-wing student Henan Abriata, who disappeared in 1977 and is presumed dead. However, Sandoval fled Argentina after the end of the military rule and settled in France, where he became a university lecturer. He was extradited in 2019. Sandoval has been accused of participating in the disappearance and torture of hundreds of left-wing activists during Argentina's military rule from 1976 to 1983. But the trial only dealt with one case, that of architecture student Henan Abriata, who was dragged from his home by police in 1976. His trial in Buenos Aires started in September. Sandoval maintained to the end that he was not the man who had seized Henan Abriata in 1976 and showed little emotion when he was convicted. Bringing you yet another story, the Taliban have arrested 5 women taking part in a protest in the Afghan capital Kabul against the ban on women attending universities. 3 journalists were also arrested. Protests are also understood to have taken place in the Takhar province. Guards stopped hundreds of women from entering universities on Wednesday, a day after the ban was announced. This is the latest policy restricting women's education since the Taliban returned power since last year. The new ban was implemented with immediate effect by the Higher Education Minister on Tuesday, with public and private universities ordered to bar women from attending. The Education Ministry said its scholars had evaluated the university curriculum and environment, and attendance for girls would be suspended until a suitable environment was provided. Meanwhile, footage shared on social media on Thursday showed around 2,000 Afghan women dressed in hijabs marching through the streets of Kabul, raising banners and shouting slogans. A protester at a rally said some of the girls had been arrested by women police officers. 2 were released, but several maintained in custody. And now let's go to this very quick one and bring to you business news from the business desk on the World Now at 4. Terminal operators operating in the nation's maritime sector under the aegis of Seaports Terminal Operators of Nigeria have said that the 2006 ports concession has saved Nigeria $16 billion in 16 years. The chairman of the STOAN, STOAN, Vicky Hastrop, said this recently while speaking at an event in Lagos. Hastrop, who was represented at the event by the spokesperson of STOAN, Bolaji Akiola, said that the amount translates to $100 million annually. According to Hastrop, the exercise has been a huge success and brought tremendous improvements to the country's port system. She said the port's concession program has reduced the time waited by vessels coming into the port from an average of 45 days before 2006 to less than 3 days currently. She mentioned other benefits, which include the injection of private capital into port development, freeing up government resources for other developmental purposes, elimination of port congestion, modernization of the ports, and improved availability of cargo handling equipment. And now let's get on to the story and have you know that Ghanaian cedi, which was listed as the world's worst performing currency about a month ago, has suddenly flipped the switch, becoming the world's best performing currency. The currency regained 61% of its value against major foreign trading currencies, following a 54% drop in value reported as recently as November. According to reports, the sudden development is due to monetary policies enacted by the nation's central bank, including the bank's decision to restrict foreign exchange support to some essential commodities such as petroleum products, as well as medical and pharmaceutical products. In light of this new Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Good evening, and this is Sport News on the World Now at 4. I am Uduak Daniel. Talking sports, the Super Eagles of Nigeria dropped 3 places in the latest monthly ranking released by the Federation of International Football Association, that is the FIFA, on Thursday. The ranking was released on the official website of the World Soccer governing body on Thursday. The 3-time African champions dropped from 32nd to 35th position in the world. Jose Peseira's side, although maintained their position among the top 5 teams in Africa, they however slipped from 4th to 5th position. The Atlas Lions of Morocco moved to top position on the ranking in Africa following their impressive performance at the just concluded FIFA World Cup in Qatar. The Teranga Lions of Senegal dropped to 2nd position on the continent, with Tunisia remaining in 3rd position, while the indomitable Lions of Cameroon jumped to 4th position. African football boss Patrice Motsepe told the press conference in Johannesburg on Wednesday that he believes a team from the continent can reach the 2026 World Cup final. The South African billionaire said the Morocco opened that Morocco opened the door by reaching the semi-finals this month. Hence, an African nation can go further at the next World Cup. Still in the news, there will be 9 or 10 African qualifiers for an expanded 48-team 2026 World Cup in the United States, that is the US, Canada and Mexico, up from 5 in Qatar. According to reports, there are at least 10 African nations that can compete at the highest level and win the World Cup, with Morocco having made history in Qatar by becoming the first African representatives to reach the semi-finals. Motsepe held Cameroon and Tunisia for shock group victories over 5-time World Cup winners Brazil and twice champions France, respectively.
Indeed, proud moments and a proud period for football on the African continent, taking into account the performance of all of our 5 national teams that were representing Africa at the FIFA World Cup, Qatar, and in particular the historic achievements of Morocco that has made all of us exceptionally proud.
More sports stories coming your way as Pep Guardiola has expressed his desire to win the Champions League in Manchester City, saying his stint at the Premier League Giants will not be complete without Europe's elite club competition. Guardiola, who signed a 2-year contract extension last month, has led City to 4 Premier League titles but is yet to land the Champions League. He went close in the 2020-2021 season when he guided City to a first-ever Champions League final, which they lost to Chelsea. His only success in the competition as a coach was at Barcelona when he won it in the 2008-2009 and 2010-2011 seasons. Speaking in his presser ahead of Thursday's Carabao Cup 4th round clash against Liverpool, Guardiola said his period at City will not be complete if he does not win it. City is second in the Premier League and trail leaders Arsenal by 5 points. They will return to Premier League action on December 28 with a trip to Elland Road to face Leeds. On sports as well, this time talking Lionel Messi and having you know that Lionel Messi will celebrate his World Cup triumph by agreeing to stay at Paris Saint-Germain, local media claimed Wednesday, as he attempts to steer the French side to an elusive Champions League title. The 35-year-old, who led Argentina to victory in the World Cup final against France in Qatar last weekend, will pen a 1-season extension to his current deal in the French capital, which expires in the summer. According to reports, Messi will sit down with PSG president Nasser Al-Khelaifi and other top club officials when he returns after World Cup break. Messi joined PSG in 2021 on a 2-season deal with an option for another year after having spent his entire professional career with Barcelona. The 7-time Ballon d'Or winner collected 4 Champions League titles in 2006, 2009, 2011 and 2015 in Spain, as well as 10 La Liga crowns. After the win in Qatar, Messi, named player of the tournament, scored twice in the game alongside PSG teammate Kylian Mbappe, grabbing a hat-trick for France. And away from that, let's have you know more stories from sports into other matters of the news. Troops of Operation Hadinkai have eliminated 103 Boko Haram Islamic State of West African State Province, that is the ISWAP, ISWAP, in the past 3 weeks in the northeast of Nigeria. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Musa Danmadami, stated this while reviewing progress of military operations on Thursday in Abuja. He said the troops also apprehended 22 terrorists, including 4 commanders and 18 collaborators within the theater during the period. It disclosed that the troops rescued 30 abducted civilians, while 280 terrorists and their families, comprising 29 males, 73 females, and 148 children, surrendered to the military across the theater of operation. And that's the world now at 4, but before we go, a quick look at our top stories. On the headlines earlier, we told you Buhari appoints BOI executive directors were brought to the force while Gambia government arrests 4 involved in military coup. Russian ex-deputy prime minister wounded in Ukrainian shelling. And on sports, World Cup winner Messi agrees to stay at PSG. Remember to visit us on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channel at Hills TV. I am Uduak Daniel. Thank you for watching.